Alrighty, folks, it's time to dig into some of the spicy comments. Again, I am somebody who loves to make calls. I have to make calls early and I stand by them. But a lot of haters don't actually understand what I am saying. And last week, when I said the buyer's market might be ending, it has brought out the hate. So I'm sure we got a lot of great questions to dig into. And you know what? Maybe we should. Maybe we should go deeper and we should really articulate what's going on. So, Mark, I assume you saw some very spicy comments this week. Where do you want to start?
All right, this is a great segue for this one. This is from Brimbledon. It says, "Laugh my ass off, laugh my ass off. Sure, man, everything is super affordable and everything is just fine. Totally healthy market conditions. Keep inhaling the copium."
So, a couple of things. I never said it was a healthy market. I never said it was an affordability problem. All I was saying, and I believe, so it's not only it's not like I believe this, like it's a yes no answer. I believe what will happen in the history books is August of 2025 will prove to be the bottom of a 3.5 year real estate depression. And when I say that, half the world flips out because everybody thinks of price. Folks, in an economy, price means very little. It's transactions. And unless you've been living under a rock, you don't realize we've gone from roughly 6.5 million total transactions to about 4.5. That's a depression. I called it. We were right. We were tracking it. And now what I'm trying to tell you is I'm calling the bottom. And when you call a bottom, it doesn't mean it's a V-shaped recovery. I know we got used to that with COVID. I know we got used to that with the stock market. That's not what I'm saying. And if you follow my channel for 4 or 5 years, you know that I believe that we're going to spend the next 5 to 6 years climbing up to back to where we were. However, once you hit the bottom, it gets better. I'm not saying it's going to be world class and we're going to the moon. None of that nonsense. I'm saying that we're going to do less than 4 million existing home sales in 2025, and we'll do 4.2 or 4.3 in 2026. That may not sound like a lot to you, but in a world where we have lost 50% or 40% of real estate agents and 60% of mortgage brokers and lots of people in escrow and title and appraisers and electricians and blah, 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 it's going to feel like a Las Vegas buffet. So I'm sorry you were butthurt and you don't understand that we're talking about transactions because I care about the economy. And I never said it was affordable. I never said, it was nirvana. However, I believe with certainty that September 2025 total sales will be better than 24 and 23, and that will signal we are bouncing off the bottom. Again, just because you bounce off the bottom doesn't mean the world is great. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the depression is finally over.
All right, like you see, I heard you kind of touch and say the word depression a few times. This one is something you reposted on X. So this individual says, "Media and government has been gaslighting us with fake numbers. There is no rolling recession, no vibe session. We had been in a depression for 2 years." And your response was, "Really? Is that what a depression feels like?"
So, yeah, I remember getting that one. I actually laughed out loud. I don't usually laugh at my comments, but that one, I got to tell you, I laughed out loud. Because again, as somebody who has studied the economy, and the Great Depression was something we studied a lot in school, and I've read about exhaustively over the last 30 years. And if you think the last 2 years were anything like the Great Depression, you're a freaking moron. I'm trying to be kind, but to think that the last 2 years were anywhere close to an economic depression, I don't know I don't know who you're watching. I don't know what you believe, but it's comical to me to think that the last 2 years were a depression. Dude, it's comical to me to think this was like the Great Recession. It's crazy to call this the .com crash. These are all things that I physically lived through. So let me just end with this. I'm not here to debate the economic numbers. It's they're all crap. But I am here to tell you we haven't been in a depression for 2 years. You're just misguided and wrong. That's just, I mean, I don't even know. I would block somebody that's that stupid. I mean, just go away. I mean, that's nuts.
All right. So, like you say, you don't really, believe a lot of the numbers that are putting out there. They're both, each side is wrong in their own ways and whatnot. But this one is, it's you hear a lot of people talking about rates coming down with a
Hmm.
lot of the new information coming out. But this individual says it's funny, lots of people cheering lower rates, but they don't understand it's because of no jobs. And you said, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, because I think there's a kernel of truth in that. And there are lots of people, especially in real estate, begging, hoping, praying for lower rates because they think that will magically take us back to 6 million transactions. And this commenter is absolutely right. Lower rates means that there's finally a recognition that the economy is sick. The economy needs help. When the Fed cuts rate, it's a sign that the economy needs help, right? They're lowering the borrowing costs, which is meant to stimulate. So there's absolutely a kernel of truth in that for sure. But the other thing when I see comments like that, I always kind of show the other side, right? Because let's just say for whatever, let's talk about U6, right? U3 says we're at 4.3% unemployment, but U6 says we're at 8%. So let's just use the bigger number for this conversation. 8% is horrible, horrible. However, that still means 92% of people are employed. And we are living in a world that has had a housing depression, which means we have restricted transactions to the tune of 2 million a year for 3.5 years. What does that mean? That means there's a lot of people on the sidelines. And lower rates will, without question, bring demand. Now, you can ask what happens after that. Well, that's not the conversation we're having. The conversation is there's 92% people employed. And yes, I'm here to tell you that 8% is horrible. I'm even here to tell you if it's 10%, it's horrible. But still, that would be 90% of the people are employed in an environment where we've been in a depression for transactions for 3.5 years. Consumers are so predictable over a long time, right? It's hard to predict a consumer behavior in a short duration. But when you have consumers who have been restricted for 3.5 years, at the first sign of, opportunity, they're going to pounce. The consumer doesn't do that for very long. It's just what's human behavior. So, yeah.
Well, this great lead into this next one that you also reposted on X, and I think you're gonna maybe find some excitement or
Mm,
joy in this. But this one was on your video about the housing market update.
mm,
Buyer's market is ending.
yep.
This person commented, "Ha ha ha! Watch all the doomers start to panic now. Last chance to buy before the housing market takes off again. Interest rates getting cut." And you said, "Doomers about to get loud."
Yeah, again, I think that housing depression is over and transactions will pick up. And again, let's be very clear. I am not talking about price. I think that price will be flat for the next couple of years. I have thought prices would be flat the last couple of years. My opinion hasn't changed. The appreciation we saw in 2 years is not healthy, and we have to make that up with 6 years of flat. That's just how the math works. But when we start to see increased transactions, that's just going to be stability under the housing market, and doomers are going to lose their mind, right? There are doomers talking about 5%, 9%, 15% crash in median home price, and they're going to have a lot of explaining to do when transactions pick up, and the crash hasn't happened again. So yeah, doomers are going to get loud.
You also just was mentioning like unemployment rate and whatnot. This individual says if unemployment rate spikes, this
Mhm.
would still be a rolling recession. Aren't all recessions rolling prior to an
Oh,
unemployment spike?
no. I mean, historically speaking, absolutely not. In fact, if you study economics like I have, we've only had one like 9-month window where even economists could point at, right? That's something we studied in school. And we never had a great example, right? Because it was never long enough to really look at it. A rolling recession is where different parts of the economy go in and out of expansion and contraction. What we've experienced in the COVID era, what we saw in the Great Recession, what we saw in the dot-com crash was the economy in total roll off a cliff. Everything crashed. So no, that statement is factually incorrect. The last 3 years, certainly 2.5 years, has been the best example I've seen. And we won't know this for sure for another 5 years. But I believe, as I've said 2.5 years ago, we've entered our first really rolling recession. And housing was the greatest example. Housing got hit first. Manufacturing has been hit, service has been hit, but at different times. And now that housing is coming out of it, at least in my opinion, housing will be a net positive to the economy, where other sectors are struggling. So no, all the recessions of my adult life have not been a rolling recession. That's inaccurate.
All right, this one is more kind of maybe a little explanation on your part or kind of a help
Mhm.
me understand this. But this person said, here is the real question. What is inflation? The rise in consumer goods or the rise in the money supply? Two very different items.
Yeah. So this is something that a lot of people like to geek out on. It's a fun debate among people who find this stuff exciting, which is like 5% of the world. But let's talk about the other 95%. And then maybe we'll go to the other 5. So what is inflation for the average consumer? They don't care about money supply. They don't care about any of that stuff. When they go to the store and they see the price of ketchup and tomatoes and steaks are up, that's inflation to them. So for the average consumer, inflation is felt at the cash register, which would be the price of goods. However, if you want to get theoretical and you want to get kind of geeky into this world, I do believe that the real undercurrent of inflation is the expansion of the money supply. And again, this is going to mean nothing for most people. But when you increase the money supply into a fixed area of goods, money just chases less goods or the same amount of goods, and thus you can pay more. So that's why you see a lot of very smart people follow the M2 money supply. And if you don't know, the M2 money supply took off during COVID like it never had. It broke trend. The M2 money supply was very consistent for decades, and then COVID it shot to the moon. And then, oh, by the way, inflation went to 9.1%. There was a time where M2 money supply was contracting for like 18 months or so. It's now expanding again. I think it was up 5.5%. So it's never a 1-to-1 ratio, of course, but it is a sign that there's more and more money in the system. Assuming the goods are fixed, those will go up. So if you want to geek out on it, I'm in the camp that M2 money supply drives it. However, for most of us, that means absolutely nothing and is confusing. It's what I pay at the cash register. So kind of both answers.
All right, so what about this one then? So Ed Yardini says we need to punish 90% of the economy to keep the other 10% in check. Main Street doesn't own stocks. Feels like a disconnect.
Yeah, so I think that's in respect to Ed Yardini saying that they need to keep rates high, right? Ed Yardini is basically like the cure to higher prices is higher prices, right? Let the system work it out. And Ed's really pointing at the fact that if you do lower rates, it kind of hides sins that can be covered up with lower debt costs. And there's something absolutely to that. And then back to the other point to this comment is that only helps a finite portion of the economy. Like think about the K-shaped economy we've talked about on this channel a lot. If you happen to own assets, you like it. And if you don't own assets, it doesn't impact you. It's kind of unfair, frankly. So yeah, there's a lot of subtle truth in that comment. And yeah, we are there. The Fed's going to make a choice. And my guess is they're going to protect, they're going to try to save jobs and lower rates. And that's going to do what it does. And asset owners will win again.
Yeah, on that point of asset owners, this individual says, while the real estate market is down, the rich are definitely richer. The middle class are the only folks struggling, in my opinion.
Well, that's factually incorrect. I would argue that the lower class or whatever is below middle is struggling the most. I think it's a sliding scale, right? The less assets you own, the more pain you're in. So I don't think it's the middle. I mean, I'm not saying the middle class is not hurting. I'm saying they're not hurting the most. I think it's a sliding scale. That's just the nastiness of inflation. Inflation's a regressive tax. It hurts the people that least could afford it the most. The middle class is certainly hurting. Although when I think of the middle class, I think the middle class, certainly when compared to the lower, has 401ks. And, unless you're invested in something horrible, your 401ks are up monstrous, right? A lot of people in the middle class own their home, record amount of equity. In fact, what people really miss about this is, yes, the middle class is shrinking, but there's more and more people that are going up than down. And it's because they own assets. At the end of the day, the game should be remarkably simple. If you own assets for a decade, you get rich. If you own nothing, you go broke. It's just, I don't know when people are going to wake up and realize that. And if that is the game, the question should be, how the hell do I own more assets? It's the getting wealthy is remarkably simple.
Yeah, I think talking about your channel also too, and why people are attracted to it is kind of that one rental at a time, small and mighty investor mindset, the lazy investor, Dion. But this individual has an interesting thought. It says, I firmly believe that we're going back to the basics, where the hands-on mom and pop landlord who do their own maintenance repairs and value adds are going to be the strong who survive. All of this internet fuel, get rich quick real estate BS is fundamentally unfounded. If you don't own the tools, skills, and knowledge, it is exponentially difficult to make it as a new landlord these days. Same with flipping, same with Airbnb.
I agree with that 100%. I think one of the things we are going to uncover is the people that suffer the greatest pain in the next 12 to 18 months were people that were chasing Excel spreadsheets. They weren't operators, right? They got over leveraged, short-term debt structures, overpaid, believed the hype, chased gurus. And you're all going to get stung. Some of you are going to go bankrupt. Some of you are going to lose lots of money. Some of you will never come back. But to this commenter's point, the operators, right, the people in our world, right, one deal a year, one deal every 2 years, who focus on operations, are going to do just fine. Now, we're not going to leave unscathed. If you bought wrong, it's going to hurt for a while. But just like the people that bought in 08 or 07, if you were able to have the right structure, it certainly wasn't any fun for 5 or 6 years, but you got out of it. You recovered. You held on, and you're better for it. So yeah, I think the era of slick money, yo-yo guru, yeah, hype, print money nonsense is over, and now it's time to get stung. And frankly, that's a good thing. That will create opportunities for guys like me, right? I'm not shy about it. I'm looking to pick up assets from people that bought stupid. And, I'll wait till the bank realizes how stupid they were and do it again. I mean, that's been a big portion of my wealth, was buying stuff from people who overpaid and then picking up for the bank for 50 cents on the dollar.
Now, using kind of the one rental at a time blueprint or mindset, I know there's a
Mhm.
lot of different variables involved, but what's your thoughts on this? So this individual says interest only loans are the best. Do the math.
So mathematically, they're absolutely correct, right? It pushes more money to the bottom line. But it really goes back to what you're trying to do, right? In my world, when I started, right, this is the first 3 years, I was simply trying to get to a point where I had 4 houses paid off free and clear. And interest only mortgages would not have allowed that to happen. It just wouldn't. However, if you're an investor and you're trying to squeeze out maximum cash flow, then of course they are absolutely the best answer. So it's really about know thyself. What's the goal? Again, I wanted 30-year fixed amortized loans because my goal for the first 4 homes was to own them free and clear when I was 65. and you can't do that with IO loans or interest only loans. But yeah, if you're trying to have money fall to the bottom line, interest only loans are the best. I would agree with that. So it depends on what your goal is.
All right, and I think this is something I've been hearing you guys talk about a lot of it on your recent videos, and maybe people are forgetting it, I guess, whatnot. But 10 years is a short period of time to get wealthy. You said exactly.
Yeah, this really goes back to that Ryan Pineda and Robuilt conversation, and it didn't. It's been happening to me for 5 years, but it finally crystallized with that video. I am not talking about replacing your income. That's not who we are. We are not people that generally hate our jobs and we want to quit tomorrow. That's not one rental at a time. What we are is we're going to be the best little employees we can. We're going to live below our means. We're going to buy one asset a year. And in 10 years, we are going to be wealthy. It is a completely different mindset. You know, if you want to replace your income and create another stream of active income, you need to follow people like Ryan Pineda and Cody Sanchez and Alex Hormozy, Gary Vee. If you're looking to get wealthy, have a great family, keep your health, stack assets one a year, dude, I am your boy. That is our world. We are everyday wealth builders. So again, it's not about replacing your income with different active income. It's about getting wealthy. And let's do that together. That's my community.
Well, touching on your community and talking about yourself, this individual says, "Good morning. Are you ever thinking about posting your marathon training, diet changes, and overall health improvements that have helped you change things around? Looking lean and focused."
I'm certainly willing to if that's interest to the folks. I mean, as a channel that's definitely finance oriented, um, I don't put a lot of that out there, right? We've done a little bit of that with my doctor, Dr. Jeff, who's helping me with this. But yeah, if there's interest in the community and what I did to train for a marathon, and then what I've done this last, what is it, 9 months to go from 35% to under 12 body fat, trying to get under 10. This last 2% is proving to be the hardest. I'm game. I mean, I'm happy to do an interview on it or whatnot. I just want to give the audience what they want, and yeah, I mean, if the audience asks for it, sure, of course.
All right, I think we're going to wrap it up kind of maybe with this discussion. But last week, after we are recording, we kind of want to see people that started YouTube channels and put it in the comments. And so there was about 6 or 7 people that said
Hmm,
they started, their channel because of your advice or a little bit of pushing. But
nice.
I don't know if you're aware that you almost ended one before it even started.
Oh
So
no.
Frank, old guy REI, did comment on. He's not sure if you remember this. He said, but he said, "I started my channel thanks to you and Dion. One of the moments I would never forget is when I got to interview you, and as I did my introduction, 'Welcome back to Old Guy RAI,' you kind of chuckled."
I do remember that actually. And the reason I did that is that was the first time I had heard that channel name. I knew him as Frank. I didn't know him as Old Guy REI. I now know him as that. So the reason I chuckled was the title made me laugh. I thought it was a really funny title. It
He
certainly
said
was.
it. Yeah, he
Yeah.
said it almost ended his career right there.
Oh man, that wasn't my intention. It was a laughter of joy, laughter of creativity. It was meant to be respectful. I need to apologize, I guess. Yeah, it was just the first time I heard it. It was my honest reaction. I thought it was a cute, kind of creative title. Like, oh wow, I should have thought of that, right? It was one of those things. So I'm sorry. I guess yeah, I guess he took it as a negative. I guess it wasn't meant to be that. But sorry, Frank. My bad. I only knew you as Frank. I never heard old guy REI before. So first
And
time I heard it.
and speaking of Frank, so there was a question though. This is kind of sent to me. So you did have a live session for people that purchased their
Mhm,
tickets early,
mhm.
and you went live with Dion and Lumberjack showed up.
Yep.
But the question that was sent to me was,
Shit.
does Zuber realize that the longest running accountability group runs at that same time that he had his call? And people were questioning Frank, are you gonna, not have it because Zuber's going live? And I just want to let you know there's a new streak going on. Since you ended your streak for your daily
Yeah,
financial news,
good for
Frank
him.
said he's going 2 years strong, and they have not missed a Wednesday yet.
I first off, I didn't know that. So shame on me for not looking at the calendar. Sorry, Frank, but I applaud him. I would have done the same thing. I would have done the exact same thing. We would have just kept going and just expected less people. So I respect that hustle. I respect we declared it. We're not changing. Discipline mindset. Frank, you're my hero. So good for you.
All right, that's the perfect alarm to end this, and that was a great, yeah. Frank, he went strong, and actually the funny thing was there was a lot of us that were on
On
two
both.
devices, yeah, just to support him.
Dude, this community, specifically the school community, right? Because again, $20 a month kind of self-selects who's in there, is the highest concentration of good people I have ever seen. Seriously. 450 odd people, good people, caring people, helpful people. It blows my mind at the concentration of just really good people like yourself and Frank and Jared. I mean, Brandon, and just the list goes on and on. So I'm in awe of what we are building. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I love being a part of it. So, like I said, it's a fun time. Everyone, I don't know, $20 a month. It's I don't
It's
know. I
crazy.
don't know why
It's
people
crazy.
aren't joining.
Yeah, exactly. And they can get a free month. You still got a couple of seats, yeah?
Yep, yep. There was a few people that reached out after last week's episode, so hopefully, yes, a few more reach out this week.
Yep. Very cool. Again, and how do they do that? They go to Instagram and say, "Hey, hook me up with a free month."
That seems to be the easiest way. Yeah, find me on Instagram, Financial Firefighter, and just message me, and then we'll figure out how to reimburse you.
There you go. Mark, you're amazing, buddy. Thank you for doing this.
All right, thanks.